Welcome to Conversations to Live a Hell Yes Life. This is part one of my interview with certified financial planner Jamie Fleming. Jamie has been in financial planning for over 28 years, and in this episode, she shares how she decided as a young girl to become a financial planner when financial planning was not a common career for women, and some of her earliest obstacles in the financial world even before she started college, and how she never lost sight of her dream. Hey everybody, it's Barbara from Back to Life Massage and Bodywork with your next episode of Conversations to Live a Hell Yes Life. And I am here with the awesome Jamie Fleming, and I am so excited to share her with you today. Jamie and I, we met many years ago. Jamie is, I don't even know exactly your 100% your title, so please tell us your title.
That's usually pretty tricky, right?
Because you're so many things.
There's a lot of alphabet,
Yes.
you know, in this industry, being in the financial industry, but probably what represents me the best is as a certified financial planner. And I've been a lot of things within that umbrella, but that kind of covers everything.
Okay, yes, I wasn't sure exactly how to address you today as like financial planner or I don't know. There's lots of different ways that you can be addressed. But I met Jamie many years ago. I think it might have been 2004, 2005.
Wow.
She was holding a workshop called Women and Money.
Women in Money or Women Building Wealth, I think is what
Yeah,
the
one of the names there, and it was a 4-week class, and I took it, and she really opened my eyes to a lot of ways to plan for my future financially, and just kind of things that I just should be thinking about. And then I wanted to work with her as a financial planner, but I just, at the time I didn't, but I kept her, still have her little binder from that class. And then a few years back, I joined a networking group here in San Diego, and she was the leader of one of the networking groups, and I was like, I have to be in her group. And
That's
so
awesome.
I got hooked up with her, and I love going to our networking meetings, and she always is giving really good financial advice and just helping kind of, pop things into my head, like little ideas of like, oh, okay, I should think about that, or things I might want to think about how I want to build my wealth.
Awesome.
I don't feel like I have a lot of wealth yet, but I have enough to get me by. I'm working towards it. But I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about your background and how did you get into financial planning, and just what's your journey?
My journey, yes. My journey is a fun one looking back. Maybe not as I was experiencing it, but I certainly appreciate it now. But ironically, and people joke about, did that really happen? The reason I even know the phrasing financial advisor was, I was part of a generation where girls were not, pushed towards careers necessarily. And so they did this pilot program for us in the 3rd grade and said, put all the things that you like and we'll spit out a bunch of things that you can do. And the list varied from blue collar work to, attorney and everything in between. And one of the things mentioned was financial advisor. You work with people. I love people. You work with numbers. Love numbers. I was a math nerd in school. And then even in the 3rd grade, I looked over and it told you what, you could make, per year. Even in that time, we were looking at 6 figures. And so looking at all the variety and what I liked, I thought, oh, that makes sense. I had no idea what a financial advisor was. But I went home, told my mom, I'm going to go to college, be a financial advisor. My mom's like, okay. And that just stuck with me for some reason. Looking at all the possibilities, that's the one that made sense. And it still makes sense for me today.
Very cool.
So that's how it started. And then I went along that path to college. Started with a double major, Spanish and finance, because I had taken Spanish for a very long time. Lived in a predominantly Hispanic community. I wanted to be able to understand. It didn't occur to me to tell someone who was my friend who spoke Spanish to speak English. I should be able to participate in whatever language at the time. So that was that motivation. And I really enjoyed it because that really led to the people person part of what I want to do, where the finance part I learned is a little drier, not so much, working with people necessarily, but that's what I really wanted. And I had good mentors along the way. So the finance part was always pretty easy. Spanish part was more difficult.
Yeah.
That led me to go overseas to Spain for a year to study. finished my Spanish degree, I don't think I would have ever really learned how to speak fluently in Spanish if I had stayed in the States. I had to really be immersed. That was a difficult thing for me, the other side of my brain, right? And then I came back and thought, well, now how am I going to get into my industry? So then you just have to start that journey, which today's a bit easier. There's a degree in financial planning now to get your CFP designation. There was not one when I started. I graduated in 1991. So San Diego State University is where I ended up finishing my schooling, and that's the first university, I believe, in the country that actually had a financial planning curriculum, so that you can graduate with that concentration and sit for the Certified Financial Planner designation, which I took in about 2001.
Okay. Now, something that you were saying about, back when you were in grade school and, girls weren't supposed to do certain things, right? Like as you got a little bit older, how did you not lose sight of that dream, even though it was not maybe something women were supposed to do? Was there something that just kept you going, or you're like, I'm going to do this no matter what, or you were like, I want to break that ceiling?
That's such a good question. I think I was pretty focused as a kid. I just knew that I wanted to be able to support myself. My parents worked very hard in their life, and they weren't really able to do some of the things that I thought I wanted to be able to do, like buy a home, just be able to travel, do things that were of interest to me, especially having gone overseas to Spain. That gave me the big travel bug of wanting to learn about other cultures and other areas and having those life experiences, because I really brought those things back. I was a pretty shy kid growing up, and that made me kind of have to make my way in the world in an area where I understood the language, but speaking it was a struggle. So it forced you to kind of ask for help, which was something that I had to learn to do growing up, and not just think I had to do it all myself. So the financial planning part of it, or the financial advisory part of it, it must have just really resonated with me. Now, I had people say, as I was saving money for college, I had gone into a bank. No female advisors, none. There were female tellers, but all the investment people were male. So I sat down with one at 18 with $5,000 and said, I'm getting ready to go to college. I want to do something. So I knew what I wanted to do, but I still didn't know exactly what that meant, but I knew I wanted to invest. I was a pretty good saver as a kid, saved my allowance for different things, so I had this money. And I went to 3 different banks, 3 different people, basically said, well, why don't you just pay for your school, and then you won't have any loans, which I didn't anyway. But not one of them was willing to take me on as a client at 18 with $5,000.
Wow, that's crazy, because that was like late 80s.
That was 86 when I graduated. And so if you looked at, if someone said, Jamie, if you put $5,000 away a year, every single year, by the time you're 60, I would be well into being a millionaire.
But the fact that they didn't, nobody advised you as a woman to put that away. Like, was there something? I guess there's something about you being a woman that they're like, well, she can't handle this, or
and maybe she won't finish school, or maybe it was just a really condescending, kind of approach, which I think still exists today in some arenas in finance. But really, it just pissed me off. And so I thought, okay, forget it. I didn't use it towards school, but I still didn't know how to invest. I just kept saving. I just kept putting money away. But I knew I wanted to do something with it. I just wasn't sure how to do it. And then no one gives you the time of day.
Now, did that kind of light some fire under you, help you be even more determined to become a financial planner?
Totally, because I thought, how many people, if they, one of my quotes, we talked about, what are some of your favorite quotes, just globally, right? And one of my favorite quotes to share with clients is, it's the small things you do every day in and out that will create your biggest success. And I thought about that, going into college with this, little bit of money, but at that time it was a huge savings for me. And just that little bit of money every single year would have put me in such a different position that I talk about that all the time, especially with my young clients or children of clients, to just get them in the mode of putting money away and how much easier our lives would be. But we're not taught that in school. Still today, we're not taught really the foundation of finance and really how much easier all of our lives could be if we had some practical kind of step-by-steps when we're young, because everyone thinks they have plenty of time. And I get that in the 20s. Oh, I've thought about that. Not so much. People are getting wiser, right? It's starting to happen. I have plenty of time in my 20s. The 30s, we start talking about it because we're making a little money. Maybe you want to buy a house. Maybe you're having children already. In the 40s, when I usually see the lion's share of my clientele, it's, man, I wish I would have done this 20 years ago. That's the consistent message I've gotten over the last 28 years I've been doing it.
Yeah. Now, do you feel like you work mostly with women or couples, or like is it varied?
It's varied, but what I can tell you, I think what attracts the clients that are attracted to my business, they could be married couples, but most of the time, the decision making, predominantly, it's by the women in the relationship.
Wow.
Whether they make more money or not. Now I have both too. I have women that are working. Most of my coupled clients are two income families nowadays, especially living in California or San Diego. You almost have to be if you want to buy a house, and then if you have kids. But for the most part, not 100%, but the lion's share, the highest percentage of those couples, the women are coming in and making the decisions. They're looking at all the finances. They know what the bills are. They are usually the ones writing the checks. And even though we consult with both sides of the party, usually I'm connecting with the female side, or in nowadays more and more same-sex couples, we're looking at collaboration in that respect.
Yeah. Wow. Well, so you and I've actually, Jamie is, I refer to, sometimes in some of my videos, I refer to my money coach. That's Jamie. I actually signed up for her program. She has a program called Kicking the Fear Out of Your Finances, which I have a lot of fear around money. I'm working on, shifting those fears and those negative thoughts, and some of the work that we've already done together. I'm still not. I'm only a little ways through the program, but
it's a process.
It's a process. But I was really impacted by the first module, and then just the talks that we've had, and just seeing you at our networking meeting, and just all of your inspiration. But there is I have a lot of fear around finances, and even though we've done the work together, I still struggle. I don't feel like I make enough money, and I'm really proud of where I am with my business, and I'm not going to give up.
Right.
But some months are better than others,
Sure.
And some years are better than others, and sometimes it's just really hard to kind of stay the course financially, and how do you guide people? How do you help people stay in a positive place and not just throw in the towel and just be bury their heads,
right,
because they don't really know what to do?
That's the tricky part. A lot of times it isn't really the mechanics of financial planning that makes what I do challenging, which is the part I like. It's the psychology behind what are people facing in order to make those decisions financially. So you had mentioned the first module of Kick the Fear Out of Your Finances, and to me, it's absolutely the most important module in the entire program, and it's the one that I always have the most anxiety going out and teaching, because it's the one that seems to impact people the most, and that's the psychology of money. And the psychology of money is looking at exactly what you're talking about. Not just fear around money, that's the compartmental side of it, right? I always tell people it's the psychology of money that we're talking about, but it's really the psychology of everything. So what are your roadblocks, and how are those roadblocks affecting your money? So if you're an entrepreneur like you are or I am, and we're gaining new clients, what are our fears about going after the clients we really want, that we really enjoy working with, and that have the capacity to pay for services, to feel better physically, emotionally, mentally, working with me, feeling better financially. It's all connected to me. The health of someone, their financial well-being. It's all connected, right? If we're not taking care of ourselves physically and mentally, emotionally, then we can have more medical issues. Things are more expensive. Health insurance, medications, life insurance, everything costs more. And that takes away from the other goals of our finances. So I always look at someone's picture as a whole. Like, what's your why? Like, why do you want to retire at 65 or 60 or 55? Why do you need $1 million? Because maybe it's too much. Maybe it's not enough. And so for me, that piece of the puzzle, that first appointment or that first module that I teach, it really gets people thinking about what's important about these things to you. And so people always ask me, are you going to make me do a budget? Like, no, we don't do budgets, but we do have you do a cash flow. It's not necessarily what you're spending your money on, it's how you're spending it. And it's really an awareness exercise for the client. So if someone tells me, I want to do all these things, but I don't have any money to save, and then we do the cash flow, and then they look at how much they're spending outside of the norm. Like maybe they're going to Starbucks a couple of times a day, 3 or 4 times a week, and they start adding up just little things. It's like, wow, I didn't realize it. So if that's still a priority and you feel good about it, excellent. If this is a priority over here, this financial goal, like maybe it's to buy a house and you have to save for a down payment, and then you see how much you're eating out, or just kind of frivolous being, not even just being conscious of how you're spending your money.
Right.
It becomes this self-imposed awareness. And I'm not telling someone, well, you shouldn't do this because you want to do this. It's showing them what you need to do this over here. Now let's look at the capacity to do it here. And usually people find the capacity in their own awareness of how money's going in, whether it's credit card, anything that is going out on a regular basis, that when you write that check, it doesn't feel good. Or when you see the ATM statement, it doesn't feel good here.
Right.
And then you realize, I'm not spending really towards my values.
Right. Coming up in part 2 of my conversation with certified financial planner Jamie Fleming, we discuss the process of change and how to get comfortable with making change, and how she has created a hell yes life and business as a single mom of twins. For more information about Jamie and her financial services, visit FlemingAndAssociatesLLC.com. Thanks for watching. If you have any comments or suggestions for upcoming episodes, drop me a note at bmiller@backtolifemassage.sd.com. For more information about my Live a Hell Yes Life program, visit me at backtolifemassage.sd.com. Until then, keep living your Hell Yes life.